To most, it might seem like a straightforward sequel to the original PSVR from 2016, but it's so much more than that. PSVR 2 really feels like a step change for virtual reality in general. And I can already tell a lot of you are rolling your eyes. $550 is a lot of money for next generation VR when it comes with a cable that tethers you to your console. The cheaper Meta Quest 2 is wireless and doesn't require the extra cost of the PS5 to play all of the best VR games that are available right now, so why would you spend the extra money? Well, let's get into it. Unsurprisingly, the PSVR 2 is an evolution of the design from the original PSVR, and it's better in basically every single way. The headband is easy to adjust and comfortable on the head, distributing the weight evenly. There is plenty of room in the silicone cushioning to accommodate for glasses, and the whole set is easy to adjust once you are used to it. The silicone around your eyes is also great at blocking out any incoming light, making the whole experience far more immersive than the original PlayStation VR and Meta Quest 2. An extra nice surprise is that analog wired earbuds come bundled in with the PSVR 2 and plug into the back of the headset's band. They sound pretty great, and are certainly a welcome alternative to most other devices' approaches of small, less than stellar speakers that fire mediocre sound into your ears, but also into the room for everybody else to enjoy. It's a regular 3.5mm audio jack in as well, so you can use any of your own buds, over-ear cans, or wireless headphones if you'd rather. Now back to the elephant in the room, the cable. The USB-C is plumbed in on the left-hand side of the headband, and this was a big shock to me when it was announced, and I'm sure for a lot of you may well be a deal breaker. Most VR headsets coming to the market now are wireless, and the idea of being tethered to your console might already seem archaic. But in truth, the cable is surprisingly thin, and I really found that it gets in the way or distracts me when playing. For ease of storage, I would have preferred a detachable cable, which would have also allowed the option to buy a longer cable if you wanted, but I haven't had any issues with the plumbed-in cable as it is. On the bottom of the headset, you'll find 3 buttons, one for power, one for accessing the settings, and a function button that can also trigger pass-through mode, allowing you to see your real-world surroundings. The cameras on the front of the headset that allow for that pass-through mode are also tracking the controllers, simplifying the process massively from the original PlayStation VR's hellish cameras, move controllers, breakout boxes, and cables. So what you're seeing now here is the active pass-through. It's using the front cameras on the front of the headset to show you my real-world surroundings, and there's an impressive level of detail. We can see the posters on the wall over here, see even the PlayStation logo on the console behind me. Now, it's not quite as impressive as some of the more premium headsets I've used, like the HTC Vive XR Elite. On that, I get to read text messages on my phone through the pass-through. You can't do that on the PlayStation VR 2, but it is a significant step up from the likes of the Oculus Quest 2. The PSVR 2 Sense controllers could be summarized as a cross between the DualSense controller and the Quest 2 controllers. They have a similar but larger shape, with a pistol-like grip that extends into a ring for motion tracking. The difference here is that on the PSVR 2, the ring sits further back, almost looping around your wrist, rather than sticking out of the end of the controller like the Quest 2. In all honesty, I found this much better than the Quest 2 controllers, as they collide a lot less with each other when trying to sharpshoot my way out of a zombie horde. As with any new controller, they get a little getting used to, although all of the buttons and triggers sit in the places that you'd expect them to if you're familiar with the DualSense. Impressively, the build quality here is top tier, and it all feels far superior to the Quest's equivalent. The only minor complaint is I found that the wrist straps are a little tricky to easily put on, given the placement of the ring on the controllers, but they can be removed if they prove irritating, of course, at your own risk. I found the motion tracking on the controllers and finger movement to be excellent, but the real star of the show is the haptics. Much like with the DualSense controller, advanced haptics are used to better convey the feel of tension on a virtually drawn bowstring in Call of the Mountain, or the reloading of a gun in Resident Evil Village. It's just another area where Sony's hardware excels beyond the competition to offer a level of immersion that is truly unique. They really are a massive step up from the PlayStation 3 Move controllers that the original PlayStation VR required. Battery life is also decent, with around 5 to 6 hours of gaming between charges. Not as good as the AA battery-powered Quest controllers, but at least these charge via USB-C. One issue people had with the Move controllers was battery life deteriorating over time. Now, by the time that people actually got around to using these with PSVR, they'd probably been sat in a cupboard discarded for years, but it's something that could be interesting to keep an eye on long term for the new controllers. PSVR 2 also supports eye tracking, and surprisingly, it allows you to control the system through it. You can navigate menus with a glance, although I found it to be more of a gimmick than an actually useful feature that I actually wanted to use. This tracking is also used in some games. In Horizon's case, it helps some NPCs maintain eye contact with the player. It feels like a properly next-gen feature that could open up all manner of virtual interactions in future games, but right now it's early days, and the implementation of this feature isn't exactly a game changer quite yet.
Your brother would do it in a heartbeat.
Like PSVR, the PSVR 2 has an OLED display, but unlike its predecessor, the PSVR 2's display delivers a much improved 2000 by 2040 per eye resolution. This is a huge upgrade, with everything appearing crisper and sharper on the PlayStation VR 2. Along with that high resolution comes a high refresh rate of 90Hz to 120Hz. I'm lucky that I don't really get VR-related motion sickness easily, so this isn't really a huge deal for me. But those impressive specs should help to alleviate some of that sickness for some of you. The contrast level on the OLED displays is a massive step up from PSVR 1 and Quest 2, and it all works in tandem to immerse you even deeper into whatever game you're playing. Okay, so I think this demonstrates what is so fantastic about PlayStation VR 2. The level of detail and the resolution here in these tree branches are giving me that disconcerting feeling. I know I can just walk straight through this. I know it's a video game, but I feel like I want to go around it. I feel like I want to move it out of the way of my hand. It feels odd to go straight through it. And then the OLED, the deep blacks that I'm getting as I look into this dark forest are terrifying. I know this game very well. I've played the opening section of this game very well. I know exactly what is coming, but every fiber of my being is telling me not to walk into this dark, dangerous forest. I hate it, but it's amazing all at the same time. Thankfully, setting up the PSVR 2 is so much simpler than its previous generation. Gone are the fiddly breakout boxes and connectors of PlayStation VR, and instead, the second generation headset plugs into the USB-C port on the front of your PS5. Pair the controllers with the provided cable, and you're pretty much ready to go. Once up and running, the PlayStation VR 2 will then scan your room to determine the space that you'll have to play and move around in. It'll do this process even if you plan on using the headset while seated. Room scale VR is also on offer, but you'll need 2 meters by 2 meters of free space, which unfortunately for some people just simply won't be an option. Once you're all set up, you'll be transported into the PlayStation menu, the same PlayStation menu that you're used to seeing on your PS5. This kind of feels like a wasted opportunity to me. I was hoping for some sort of wow moment here to usher me into the next generation of VR. And honestly, a more gesture-friendly UI. But I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The underwhelming UI is a minor complaint, because the main reason that you're getting this headset is the games. So let's talk about it. PSVR 2 launches with a bunch of demos. Nothing quite as spectacular as Astro's Playroom was for demoing the DualSense on PS5, but it's nice to have something to try out and show your non-gamer family and friends at no extra cost. And while no full games come bundled with the PSVR 2, tentpole title Horizon Call of the Mountain does launch alongside the headset. You'll be glad to hear that Call of the Mountain is indeed a full game, not just a short VR experience. And it's a fantastic demonstration of what the PSVR 2 is capable of. When everything is working in tandem, you'll be forgiven for thinking that you aren't living in the world of Horizon Forbidden West on the PS5. The graphics don't quite match up to the PS5 blockbuster, of course, but it's pretty close. And when you're face to face with a fire-spewing Robo-Dino, you won't be nitpicking the minor graphical downgrades. With your face in the game rather than seeing things from a third-person view, everything is far more engaging and terrifying. The sense of scale is absolutely mind-blowing. The haptic feedback in the controllers and across the headset, combined with Sony's Tempest 3D audio tech, adds a level of depth to convey a sense of reality. I could hear the beams creaking as I climbed along them, and felt a sense of connection when moving from handhold to handhold or pulling back on the bowstring. Plus, the range of movement that the PSVR 2 allows for had me leaning around obstacles and pulling off arrow shots that simply wouldn't have been possible in the standard game. And it's moments like that that make this tech feel literally game-changing. However, as much as Call of the Mountain has impressed me, it also sets a very high standard for future PSVR 2 games to follow. And at the time of recording, there aren't a huge amount of other games to test PSVR 2 with. Those that I have tried have worked well, but they're also mostly ports of other games that have been available on other platforms for a long time. PSVR 2 has more than 30 games set to arrive in the February to March launch window, so hopefully the wait for quality titles to take advantage of this great hardware won't be that long. But right now, once you beat the 8-hour-ish Call of the Mountain, it's kinda slim pickings. If you own a Quest 2 or any other VR headset, then Horizon and Gran Turismo probably won't be enough to convince you that it's time to drop $550 on a new headset. A headset that isn't compatible with your PC and will require you to repurchase your games library again. Sony says that there are more than 100 PlayStation VR 2 games in development, so I'm cautiously optimistic that the PSVR 2 will see a larger volume of higher quality games than its predecessor, and maybe some of them will be enough to justify the price tag a little more. But really what I'm hoping for is for Sony to open up the PlayStation VR 2 for PC connectivity, immediately making this device way more versatile and a way better value proposition. This isn't a massively unreasonable ask given Sony's latest strategy with porting a lot of their PlayStation 5 exclusive titles over to PC. But I wouldn't place a bet on any legit PlayStation VR 2 and PC connectivity working anytime soon. In many ways, the PSVR 2 comes with all of the best VR tech, with some industry-leading haptics and audio from PS5, in a system that's dead easy to use and surprisingly robust. To me, this all combines to make a much more compelling VR experience than most others can offer. Sure, the price tag is enough to make all but the richest among us pause for a second, but if you're interested in VR and you want to elevate your PS5 experience, then the PSVR 2 is worth it. Standalone high-end sets like the Meta Quest Pro and HTC Vive XR Elite will cost you over $1,000, and anything cheaper will require a decent gaming PC to get the most out of. And so the combined price of the new PSVR and a PlayStation 5 is competitive-ish, and if Sony follows through with more high-end VR titles that draw upon the PlayStation 5's power, then I think the PSVR 2 could start setting a standard for other VR platforms to follow, and that is genuinely exciting. Despite its high price, the PSVR 2 is an excellent way to access high-end VR. Now, we just need some games. If you're interested in high-end VR and you want to see me check out the HTC Vive XR Elite, then you can find that on the Tom's Guide YouTube channel. I've been Matt Phillips, and I'll see you on the next one.